Hi everyone. I posted the link to the Pope's inauguration mass. I hope people enjoyed it if you're following me on Facebook. And it's interesting to see how the continuation in the church goes. In our family, we have interracial marriages. And when I was taken to the police station, I was shocked that one of the things they were using against me was that the complaints put in against me was by interracial marriages, people in interracial relationships. Because my grandmother didn't bring us up to discriminate against people. My uncle in California is married to a white woman. We have friends who are married to black people. So we are Indian, we're Goan, originally from Goa. And we have friends who are married to black people. My brother's married to a white woman. So I was flabbergasted. But because my uncle had told me, don't say anything, I just looked at the police officer. I wanted to say, exactly who are you talking about? But then I thought, you know what? You grew up in South Africa, just leave it. You grew up in Zimbabwe and you know what the police are like, so just leave it. And I think it's important to remember that even in the church, because yes, now we have black priests coming in, we have Spanish priests coming in, but the majority of the priests are white. I mean, for a long, long time, I would say only maybe in the last 10 years, I've seen priests coming in from different parts of Africa, from India, and even in the church now. I mean, before, we didn't have any Indian families. Now there's only a few of us. We sit together because the whites don't really mix with you. Even when you take them into the church, once they get integrated, they go and they sit with the whites. They don't even come and sit with you or talk to you or anything. So I think it's important to remember that there's still a lot of work to be done in the church itself. And even with the changes that are coming up, I remember when I went to Newman Center, Father Tironi introduced the Latin Mass, and I said to him, I'm not coming. I don't understand this Latin and I'm not interested. And he said, no, come, because I'll have pamphlets available and I'll have the Latin on one side and the English on the other side. So I said, okay. So I went, I experienced it, but it's not for me. I mean, it's not for everybody. And you can say, oh, it's the language of the church and all that, but we grew up differently. We grew up after Vatican II. We grew up hearing the Mass in the vernacular. It doesn't make sense to me to go and sit in a church and you don't understand anything that's being said. Even now, today, with the Pope's inauguration Mass, I just watched it up to the homily where they had the English translation, and then I put it off. Because for me, there's no point sitting in the Mass and you don't understand what's happening. Even though, like my grandmother used to tell me before, the priests never used to face the people. They used to face the cross, because they used to say that we are praying to God and so we are adoring the cross. And even they were happy when the changes came, because they said it made you feel more like you were part of the service, part of the priests. Whereas before, all the raised platforms and all that, it was like the priests were there and you were nobody. So I like the changes of Vatican II. I've got some of the books from my studies, and we used to have a book study together that we did at Regis. So I liked the changes. I think they were good. And I think that they were positive changes. They needed to happen. Of course, you do get people that want the old ways. That's fine. They can keep their Mass and they can have it, their little group that they want. But for the majority of us, we like it. And my grandmother was very progressive. So she was a seamstress. She studied sewing in India, just like my neighbors Mr. Harry took courses in India to become a tailor. My grandmother took courses in India. And she used to make lovely dresses for us, clothing, and she used to make mini skirts and mini dresses for us. And we used to wear bikinis when we were small. So I grew up very modern. And when I lose weight, I don't hide it. I do wear my dresses above the knee, or I wear something that shows cleavage when I'm going out with friends. Because I'm a modern woman, I'm a 2000 woman. I didn't grow up covering up my body and not being proud of who I am as a woman. So I think, as women, we have to remember what we came through. Because it's not fair for the guys to say, oh, you invited it. Oh, no, we didn't. You learn how to control yourself, my boy. That's what we say. And even at Sunnybrook, when we did our orientation, they have this chant that they used to do, where the guys used to say, on your back, and we would say, on your knees. So we grew up very differently. We grew up very confident. And, I like the changes Vatican II brought in. I think they were needed. I'm glad that I had grandparents who were forward-thinking, because they helped us. We didn't grow up in this shame and honor culture. We didn't grow up being ashamed of who we were. We didn't grow up not wearing miniskirts or not wearing clothing where we showed our cleavage. That doesn't mean we went around naked like some of the women do when they go to these wards in America. But we dressed well, and we took pride in our appearance. So, I think it's up to each generation to say what they want. But you can see how I dress. I dress very modern. And most people don't have a problem with it. But it all depends on how you look at it and how you approach things. I think for people to say that I'm racist, they don't even know my family, they don't know how I grew up. I think it's funny, actually. Because I fought for human rights in Zimbabwe. I went to human rights concerts to fight for racial integration, and then I go to the police station and I get told, this is an interracial couple. I'm like, hello, okay. But I just keep my mouth shut, because we went through too much discrimination in Zimbabwe, in South Africa. We know what they did to the women. The police used to come up unannounced, and they did it here to me in Canada. When they came up, nobody knows who reported me missing. They came up, they didn't even check in with the police downstairs. And they told me, we didn't check in. I said, but you're supposed to. And they're like, no, but we didn't. So I'm like, okay, whatever. But that's what they do, And it's not right, because today there are people who are fake police, and they don't sign in when they come in. That's what they used to do in South Africa, in Zimbabwe. They used to just come and take the women, then take them, strip them, rape them. That's what they did to Winnie. So I don't say anything. I just keep my head down, I do my work. And my grandmother and I used to walk. We used to walk from the grave into town, and that was a long walk. It was at least an hour. So I was always with my grandmother. And even things like abortion, my grandmother educated me on it. And she told me how women make the decisions with their doctors. She educated me on reproduction, on the period. My mother never had those discussions with me. It was my grandmother. Because when I got my period, I didn't understand what was happening to me. I just took my panties and I threw them in the wash. And then my grandmother said to me, is this yours? I said, yes. She's like, are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm okay. I don't know what this is. And then she said to me, oh, you got your period. And then she explained to me about ovulation and what happens, and that it happens monthly, and that I have to use a pad. I didn't know anything, because I got my period early. I got it like at 12. and they only started teaching the sex education in high school in Zimbabwe. So I'm grateful to my grandmother for all the things she taught me. And she always said, like, a woman's body, it's your body. Nobody has a right to rape you, to treat you badly. And she encouraged me to be independent, because there's a lot of stigma around abortions and, end-of-life care. I was with my grandmother when we turned off my uncle's life support in Kwekwe, because there was nothing more they could do for my uncle, for her brother, Uncle Paul. So I was with her when they had to turn it off. I was with her when we got the news about my grandfather's death. And I supported her through everything. But yeah, things like that are very sensitive, especially around abortion. I know the doctors, they used to terminate abortions if they thought the child wouldn't have a good quality of life. And sometimes the woman wouldn't have a choice in that. So my grandmother taught me about a lot of things, and I do remember her. And she grew up in a different generation. But all I can say is that I'm happy Vatican II happened. I'm glad we have altar girls now. I'm glad we have women lectors, women that can read. I'm glad we have women spiritual directors. And I think it's important, because without my grandmother, I would have been a very different person. So it was good that she educated me, that she helped me. And even my sense of fashion, I get that from my grandmother. And she used to organize dances. She always looked nice. Whenever you saw my grandmother, she was always well dressed. She had shoes to match with her handbags. I don't even have that. But she was always very well dressed. She was polished, and she made the most of whatever she could in life. And I think it's important for us to remember that, especially racialized women, because I don't ever want to be taken back to the police station again and told this is a racialized couple, because I'll give it to them. I won't keep quiet this time. I won't listen to my uncle. I'll speak up, because I damn well grew up in a racialized culture, and nobody has a right to take me to the police station. I don't give a fuck. I don't. I've been through too much, and I've come too far to let my life slide into being told I have mental health problems. I don't think so. This country needs to change. And if you don't believe me, just look at the Aboriginal people. Start with that. I'm glad I had such a good grandmother and such a confident grandmother. It's good. She blessed my family. She taught us how to pray at home. She gave us blessings every day. She blessed our hands. She prayed with us. And that is what a home should be about. It should be a domestic church. And that's what our home was, and that's what my home is. And if the police can't see it, they need to get their heads checked, not me, and the priests, because I'm not the problem. I never was, and I never will be.